Hello, hello. Welcome to your natal chart karmic blueprint reading. Let's get into it. So everything looks good. Lighting. You get a haircut. It's Leo rising. But it looks normal. Okay, so this is good. Audio. Let's just always during Mercury retrograde, you always gotta double and triple check. Test, test, test. Okay. Yeah, I just had like 20 minutes or so where I was trying to figure out how to, my Bluetooth just could not connect with my computer. So I've been wanting to do this reading for like 20 minutes. I don't know. I think when it's Mercury retrograde and you know about it, it makes these things a lot less frustrating because you're just like, okay, just breathe. Not that bad. Anyways, let's get into it. Let me actually get my, let me get my timer started. Where are you at, timer? Restart my computer so everything's all over the place. Hate that. There it is. Wait, what just happened? Okay, I see. Okay, here we are. It's like everything is like slower. Like it's so funny. Every technology is just not working for me. Come on. Load, you clock. Okay. So, stopwatch, reset, go. All right. Here we are. All right. So let's start by showing your physical chart. I'll do this several times throughout the reading. So don't worry if this doesn't make much sense. I don't know. I purposely forget everything about a particular client so that I'm completely objective during the reading. So let's look at this. So obviously don't worry about all these points. All of these are just specific stars and asteroids and points that I look at. I'm gonna get the simplified version soon. Okay. So you get the 27-degree Aquarius sun. You have 0 Mercury in Aquarius, and your moon is in Virgo. So sun in Aquarius, moon in Virgo. Interesting combo. Haven't seen many of those. And then Gemini rising with okay, gotcha. And we got Mars in the first house, Gemini also. And okay, we got Venus in Capricorn in the 8th house. Okay, and it's 9th house energy for the Aquarius. We got Jupiter 11th house, which is pushing that Aquarius energy. We got North Node conjunct Uranus in the 6th house in Scorpio, South Node in 12th house in Taurus, Pluto in the 5th, Saturn in the 2nd, and you also have, you're going a way different time than me, but you also have this conjunction between Jupiter and Chiron. Interesting. These people, I feel like that makes healers, meant to be healers. All right. Neptune in the 7th. And where's Uranus at? It's hiding. It's in the 6th. Yeah, you said conjunct North Node. All right. So let's make these go away for now. And let's show my face. Okay. So first thing, You have a ton of air. Not much of the other elements, but a ton of air. You have the moon in Earth, which is nice. So that's giving you some Earth. But besides that, and then also Venus in Capricorn. So you have Earth and air. Air being your rising, your Mars and Gemini, and your Sun and your Mercury and Aquarius. And aside from that, in terms of personal planets, it's just Earth and air. So when you lack fire, you sometimes can lack that just that force that makes you start things. That ignition, that flame, that intensity, that really, like, fire people, they're very, very independent. They do things on their own. They are self-starters. And when you lack water, water has to do with the more emotional undercurrents. I wouldn't go as far, especially since you have moon square Neptune. So I see that in a lot of people that lack water, they'll have moon square Neptune. So that'll still make you very empathetic, almost to a detriment. But lacking water, qualities of water, emotional, connection to your emotions. It doesn't mean you don't have emotions, that's for sure. It just means that it can be more difficult to connect to that world, and that more work is needed for the fire, for the fire action, self-starting, all that stuff, doing things on your own, and for the water, connecting to the emotional part of you, into the intuitive parts. But there's always steps that can be taken to make sure these things happen. Now, so first thing I always like to address is the moon and the sun. What do they have to do with each other? And then also moons, like main aspects, just okay, so just one main aspect pretty much, which is the moon square Neptune. So okay, and it's in Virgo. So Aquarius sun, we don't really need to say so much about sun signs, do we? It's very collectivist oriented, very about being your own person. Just we were talking about in my group last night about how Aquarius just doesn't give a shit about what other people think of it, and they are really here to be humanitarian and to push their own agenda, in the sense that they're very rebellious, and they want to do things their own way, ultimately, and it's fixed. So it's also, Aquarius can be people who can be fixed in their objectives. Once they have their mind set on something, they can really go towards it. And it's also in the 9th house, and on the 10th house cusp, and it would be in the 10th house of a Placidus chart. So I would say that relates to your life really, really being about your dharma, and kind of your contribution to society. But in the whole sign system, the one I use in the 9th house, it's kind of combining elements of the two, right? Of going really, really this extreme importance of finding universal truth, and of seeing past the lies, and really spending a lot of time like truth seeking, like being a truth seeker, someone who isn't okay with just the narrative that's pushed down their throat of believe this, believe that. They want to travel in different cultures, and they want to really be connected to the world, right? You really want to be connected to the world. And with the midheaven there and Mercury there too, there's going to be a connection to faraway lands, either faraway lands or just different worldviews. Really, really enjoying having lots of friends from lots of different places, especially with your Jupiter, which brings luck, in the 11th house of friends. So you'd be someone who would really enjoy having lots of friends from lots of different places, and really enjoy kind of broadening your worldview, if that makes sense. That's like a big goal. I'm getting some crystals as I hold these for my good readings. So yeah, it's active. It's a very active and social and open-minded sun sign. And with the placement, with the fact that it barely has any aspects, if you consider the only aspect is the sextile with Chiron, which is a weak aspect in the sense that it's not a tough aspect. You pretty much have an unaspected sun, which is very rare, which means that there's not anything holding you back in the full, in the full, I guess you could say, the highest energy of Aquarius, 27-degree Aquarius sun. There's no karmic checks and balances, right? So you just it makes you even more Aquarius, where you just march to a different drum beat. And there's this huge emphasis on self-expression and leadership, right? And a lot of times, like, a really, really big need for ego recognition, not in the bad sense, just like public recognition. It's very, close to the midheaven, and or in the 10th house. It's close to the 10th house cusp, and it's a big part of your life is public, in the sense of public, but like your North Node in Scorpio in the 6th house, that has to do with service, which so does your sun sign. It has to do with service, but also about going deep within yourself. And the fact that your North Node's conjunct Uranus and you're in Aquarius means that karmically in this lifetime you signed up to really, really try to move away from your South Node in Taurus, right? The South Node in Taurus represents the been there, done that in past lives, right? So it's kind of like a tendency that's kind of locked into us. So South Node Taurus people, they struggle with risk taking on a karmic level, and sometimes they can just be too with the what's known. Like if it's like staying with the same friends their whole, in the same place where they're from, staying with the same friends, not taking risks that ultimately lead to growth. And in this life, you're really being asked. And also what it does is that it can make it difficult for you to individuate into, what I mean by that is to really find out who you are, not when you're not being influenced by person A, person B, society, this and that. So in this life, you signed up with all this Uranus Aquarius energy to go deep within yourself. And a lot of that has to do with how like your life work, and if your life work has to do with being a service somehow, going deep within the self, and really figuring out who you are, not who other people want you to be, right? That's extremely important, and living your life based off of those ideals. And your chart is really perfect that for something that you need to message me about. It's a private thing, it's a secret thing, but it's I say this only sometimes with certain charts, but it's a group. So just message me on Instagram and just be like, hey, you said that's some type of group. Just trust me, message me about that. Because groups of like-minded people are really, really important for you. With Aquarius is about that. It's about having good weird, like weird friends, good weird, like weird in the sense of like I don't really like that word actually, but just maybe eccentric, just like very, very like unique, and people who just don't give a shit about being different. That's more like it. So yeah, and your karma is really, really linked to this, and how you can be a little bit eccentric in a good way. So when you do shadow work in this lifetime, right, you see the tendency, and I think that there's a lot of there's a big need to break away from different people, different structures, different environments, whatever it may be, So that's kind of one thing I see there. And also, like, in this life, there's a big quest towards, like, being more responsible, being more like type A, in the sense of, like, not being like the dreamer that doesn't do, but being the person that, like, kind of gets, like, it's a very, very deep, like, North Node in Scorpio also means that this last eclipse would have rocked your world, maybe not rocked your world, but really affected you deeply, right? So you're really, really probably feeling your purpose now, and just about, the shadow work leads you to this real deeper version of you, which you then apply to your work, right? But that's one part of your chart. Then, okay, so sun, I kind of talked about the sun, kind of little things I saw that were based off that. Then there's this other part of you that's this moon in Virgo, which is very perfectionist. Also, moon in Virgo, because the moon rules our emotions and our internal environments, it can make us a little bit, it can be a moon indicator in a chart of someone that can have anxiety disorders or struggle with anxiety, especially when the moon is square Neptune, as it is in your chart, right? And the reason for that is that Virgo is ruled by Mercury. Mercury has to do with logic, and the moon has to do with emotions. So Virgo moons can have a tendency to logicate, to try to use logic to get away from their emotions, to use words to talk around their emotions, right? Also, it could indicate a mother, even though I do see a trine with your node and your moon, which would indicate, like, a lot of times I also have this, and it indicates like a positive karma with the mother. Actually, I have a sextile, but very similar. It's also, saying that, like, the highest expression, or no, you do have the same thing. You have the North Node trine the moon. The highest expression of the Virgo of the Virgo moon is very linked to your destiny, right? And that is getting away from perfectionism. But what I was gonna say is, Virgo moon can be very, it can be very difficult for people, especially early in life. And they can be really, really hard on themselves. And when it's square Neptune, right? When it's square Neptune, Neptune square moon is one of the most difficult places, because it puts a metaphoric cloud around our understanding of our own emotions and our own inner self. And also it breaks up the boundaries. Whoa. So it breaks up the boundaries between us and our environment and other people around us. So we become these sponges for energy. And a lot of times we're not very conscious of it. So we might, take on shame, guilt, other difficult emotions that aren't actually ours, right? So also Virgo being the opposite sign of Pisces, right, which is, the very spiritual sign, there's always a level of spirituality to Virgo. And also it's a, where do your sun and your moon bond? They bond on service. They're both very service oriented. So Virgo moon, it's happiest when it has a routine, a daily routine that that is nourishing it on a physical level, whether it's waking up and having a nice coffee and starting your day, and then going to do this class, and then having a few hours working. Usually they're quite organized people, very, very capable, intellectual, right? And they're happiest when their life is in order, and also when their health is in order, mental and physical. So the thing with Virgo moon, though, is that sometimes, so there's some placements which is not Virgo moon, where the person sees themselves as here and other people is here, kind of like narcissism, right? while in reality, it's kind of the opposite, right? Virgo moon and Capricorn moon, a lot of times, and it gets a lot easier with age, right? This is something that probably was more of a struggle before. They might see themselves as here and just other people as here, when in reality it's the opposite. They're actually here. They're actually more capable. They're actually, so observant and so hardworking and diligent and dependable, right? But they can be their own worst critics. And sometimes there can be that whole 100 or 0 attitude towards life where if I can't do this, they create this like impossible to arrive to ideal. And if they're not, once they inevitably don't get to that, don't succeed, like getting like 110% on the test, then they just let it all fall down. So a big lesson for every Virgo moon is being okay with not being perfect. Just kind of being like, all right, whatever the best I can do today, that's what it's going to be. And then also Virgo moon, yeah. So it's the square with Neptune. There's a big need for alone time, and a big need when you're around people with. And by the way, I'm sure you're taking notes because you're Virgo moon, but like it's very important for the follow up to take notes because I'm gonna not remember this. I have so many charts. You have no idea. It's ridiculous. By the time we do the follow up, I'll have long forgotten, but the alone time is very necessary and it's very important to you might be someone that likes to kind of, because Virgo moon's very physically observant. They notice everything. So notice like how you feel. Like, do you feel lighter when you're outside the influence of a certain specific person, or do you feel like how does, like, really notice how you feel alone compared to like when you remove yourself from an environment or a person or whatever. And a lot of times with that square, there's the big lesson is like, how can I not be so affected by other people's energy? And that's like one of the biggest lessons, and that's why a lot of people with this energy go towards spirituality and learning energy protection techniques. Things like Kundalini yoga could be really powerful, all that. I was gonna say something else about Virgo moon. Oh yeah, the other thing about Virgo moon that can be difficult with that, like I said, it can be very anxious. And just because if there's a constant like worry about the future, right? Because like Virgo, because if the perfectionism isn't overcome, there can be such a worry of like getting this right, getting that right, getting it perfect, that it creates anxiety disorders that are psychosomatic, that are felt within the body, and can lead to social anxiety, all kinds of stuff like that. And with a square Neptune, that can definitely be something where you really can early, especially, well, a lot of this is like like I said, gets way better with time, have a lot of difficulty understanding who you are emotionally. And another thing about the moon square Neptune is that it's really important how you were nurtured, like like the state your mother was in, like when you were born, because some people that have that, they're extra sensitive to that, and they will take on energy of their mother. And like I've had like clients before who like have this, who are like, yeah, it took me until my Saturn returned 30 years old to realize that like I was like I thought that the shame that like I had always had my whole life was my own, but I realized it was just my mother's, and she released it, and it was like one of the most powerful things ever. So yeah, I guess the conflict comes from the need for perfection, and Aquarius being more detached, and it's a detached sign, but it really just they both bond on service and doing good things. So that's kind of how those two can play together. Aquarius isn't so focused on like perfection, like everything. So like with Virgo, it's just like the big thing that when we talk about relationships, it can have a negative relationship effect, because or effect on relationships, because if we're not over, they can have really unrealistic expectations for their partners. And when they don't meet them, they can just be like, okay, peace out, bye. And especially with your Venus in Capricorn square or opposite Saturn, that's going to add to this theme I'm speaking about, right? And it is square Chiron. So basically, all that's going to say that there's a lot of difficulty in self-love, that you probably really had to go deep into yourself, which is the North Node, which in Scorpio, which is literally like saying, through service, through organization, go deep into your own self, your own psyche, your own shadow, the dark night of the soul, and that's where you'll find the gold, the inner gold. But in relationships, as I was saying, and Juno's right there on the moon, it can be difficult because one potential behavior is, let's say like a Virgo moon person notices, like they're so observant, right? So like, let's say they notice something. So they really need reliable partners, right? They really need reliable partners. Lots of people who are not here to muck around. In your Capricorn, Venus is saying that also. You have kind of two parts here. And if you ever decide, I do astrological counseling. That's like becoming my specialty. And it's like, I have my 2 master's degrees in psychology, and I combine astrology and psychology. And if you were ever, I'm just saying this because if you were ever able, doing this with me, which I would love to do with you if you're ever in need, I would look at these 2 parts, or actually multiple parts. I would do parts work within the chart. Maybe I'll write a book about this one day. And in relationship to love, so that there's the part that wants that security, wants that rock, right? The Virgo part. But then also at the same time, there can be lots of projection, right? So like, if the Virgo moon person doesn't get past perfectionism and self-love is the most important thing, right? And just like being able to have a sense of humor about their own faults and not take themselves so seriously, because they notice everything. So it's like, imagine like they notice everything, all the little things, and then they just project it outwardly. So it's like let's say like, oh, I noticed that you haven't been doing this, or like I noticed like that you have this behavior, and just like there can be like an analysis, and kind of like a microscope on the partner just sometimes, right? So that can be very difficult for relationships. And then also the square Neptune, that can create confusion around what the real emotional goals are. So make sure you take notes of all of these, and we'll discuss them and compare them to your life. So speaking of love, in the parts I was speaking about before, there's definitely this massive divide, because there's this part of you that's really wanting this secure, kind of like secure love, right? That is based in, more solid kind of, I want to say like not materialistic, but like more based on like the earth sphere, if that makes sense. But then there's this other part of you, right, which is shown by your Mars in Gemini, which is, says a lot in your Gemini rising, right? Your Gemini rising. This is like a very active and curious and dynamic part of your personality. And it also has a lot of, it also has a lot to do with it is trining your Aquarius sun, right? Your Mars trining your sun. Even though it's 9 degrees, who cares? It's just an elemental trine, even with the ascendant is trining the Mercury. And basically what that's saying is that there's that team air, like, which is the Aquarius and Gemini. That's one team, that's one part. And then the other part is like the more earth, more conservative, more traditional, more things stay the same. I want some, like, like the Venus in Capricorn, even though it's in the 8th house, which you'll have to talk about. It's super interesting. Like Venus in Capricorn on its own, they're interested in partners who are like not like gold digger type successful, but just like they want someone who is serious and who takes relationships quite seriously, right? So they're not here to muck around, as I say, when it comes to relationships. And they really are. So there's that party that's really looking for that consistency. And sometimes Capricorn moons, they always need to know like where they stand when it comes to like the relationships, which can be very difficult because Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, means that typically a lot of Capricorn moons, they don't really experience the best in relationships until after their Saturn return around 30. Doesn't mean that they couldn't have had relationships, but usually it takes time to grow into it because Venus represents love for thyself. So Capricorn is Saturn, so there's restrictions that you face, especially with the opposition of Venus and Saturn, right? There's lots of it could be from your father or whoever it's from. It can create lots of conflicts as it relates to finding self-love. And around 30, the energy's got a lot better. But yeah, Capricorn moon also look for ambitious partners who care about their position in society, like power couple type energy, right? And Cap, like yeah, so they really there's kind of a serious tone to the relationships, right? And really wanting to have like a very solid foundation where they're not here to waste time. And the fact that it's in the 8th house, that's very, very different. And that makes you think that you would do well, at least from a karmic perspective, with someone that pushes you to open up. Pushes you to open up because you have that lack of fire and water. So sometimes when I see people with those charts, and if you are married or in a partnership, it would be very interesting to hear what your partner, if you have one, what their placements are. Because I've done a few because I do compatibility readings too. I've done a few with charts like yours where it's like lacking elements, and I've been very amazed at how the partner kind of like filled in. It's almost like they kind of completed each other, but very like opposites attract. But anyways, besides that, yeah, someone who challenges you to open up, because like beyond, like Virgo moon, it's like someone who you're definitely someone who like getting in touch with your emotions can be difficult, let's just say. And it's important to find someone who's very trustworthy. And the fact that you have Neptune in the 7th house, right? That is another potential. That is another. Trying to get comfortable. So that is an indicator of this confusion boiling out in relationships, right? So I didn't really mention that your moon's in the 4th house. Also, I should probably add that in, which basically is that it's a very great place to have your moon. It kind of adds like a Cancer touch where you really are, you want to be the nurturer. You really care about having your home nest. And sometimes feel the 4th house moons can move around a good amount too, though. There can be like changes in like where they live. But yeah, it's like also there's the like wanting to like live by water is a potential, but really it creates someone who is very, very attached to their family, and who's very, very even though there's no water, 4th house moon, they want to kind of go within. There is that emotional need to go within and to figure the stuff out, right? Which is shown by the North Node as well. So that's kind of touching on that. So okay, back to what I was saying. With Neptune in the 7th house, there's a whole lot of confusion, and there can be that whole. I wrote something recently, an article about the different types of love, and how some people have like the Uranus issue in love, some people have the Pluto issue in love, and for you it's the Neptune one, right? And what happens here is that there's rose-colored glasses when it comes to love. 1 second. And it's really, really, really important to, it can create someone who like is fooled by love, and who sees the potential as opposed to the reality of the person, right? And it's really important for them to, I guess you could say, take it slow, get other people's view, like speak to friends who see it from like the objective standpoint, and like take things slow when it comes to love, I guess is the best way I can say. Because there's a lot of potential for being tricked, and for attracting like energy vampires. And also this speaks further to that search for perfection in intimate relationships. That whole like kind of like imagining that the love life should be like all these romantic comedies and the whole Disney thing. And yeah, like becoming disillusioned with imperfect partners. So what can happen is that once that like pink cloud, rose colored glasses phase ends, and they start to see, it's very romantic, right? But like, and that's a good part of it. But once that gets over, and they see the more mundane, everyday like aspects of love that are just part of being human, that's when things get tricky, right? So it's really important to know that, and to try to like see and imagine in what ways is this playing out in my life, and to try to like notice it when it's happening. But in time, it creates someone who really, and it's conjunct your part of fortune. So that's very strong placement for Neptune being a planet of spirituality, and how you can be someone who is attracting these very spiritual unions, whether it's a partnership, but also like a business partner. It could be, right, or potentially if you're a psychologist, just for an example, or someone like like me who's working with this is a seventh house relationship, me and you, it's one-on-one, like clients. So yeah. 1 second here. I would like to find that post. I don't know how long ago I wrote it. It wasn't that long. But regardless, I can keep talking while I'm looking. So whatever. Just give up. Give up, Jesse. You haven't looked at anything so far. Let's just keep it going. So so that's one aspect, right? So we're seeing this. So how this plays out in your it's so important to get past perfectionism and to notice that, right? And that's why like I mentioned the counseling as I'm sure maybe you've done it, maybe you're a call. I know nothing about you. I'm just saying that's very good. There's also this part of your chart with Mars in the first house that's very independent and very in ascendant, very curious. Also, Gemini risings, they look young. They like, trust me, like I see so many people. I just posted about this today, and I had like I think more than one person in the comments say like, I said I posted about Gemini rising and how they, because it's ruled by Mercury, they tend to look young even into like their like 30s, 40s. They always like to look way younger than they are. And like I've seen so many examples, it's ridiculous, right? So it's a very good placement for keeping beauty and keeping the youthful spirit, and not just look, but youthful spirit as well. Also very talkative. No surprises there. Gemini risings, they like to talk. It makes your ruling planet Mercury, which is a 0 degree Aquarius. That's a critical degree, which has to do with like kind of like this new in Mercury is conjunct Venus, so that's a strong placement. It's opposite Saturn, difficult. But basically like there's lots of new like your mind has really entered a new karmic cycle in the way you're communicating, and you're really curious about like everything that's relative to Aquarius. But besides that, so with the parts work, this is the part of you that needs someone not just with the stability and all the what I talked about before, someone that you can trust, because with, like I said, with the Neptune 7th house, you can attract the wrong partners and think someone's this when really they're that. So that's why like a lot of people with like this kind of placement would go for someone like with like a Taurus, Virgo energy, or something really consistent, Capricorn. But there's the exciting part, the part that's more exciting in the sense that like it wants adventure, right? And it wants to have it needs to have an intellectual connection. So you definitely need to have an intellectual connection with a partner, and just with your environment in general. Mars, the planet of action, in Gemini, are people who they're the best arguers, and they use their words as weapons in arguments, if it comes to that. And they really are very eloquent, very, very good at writing. A lot of the times speaking is a strong suit, and they like to do it. And because you're rising Gemini, it's going to be a really big part of your personality. People might see you as talkative, perhaps not. But then we get to your Mercury, which rules all of this, and it's trying the ascendant, but it has this opposition with Saturn, and that is very difficult. So when Mercury's opposite Saturn here, that can indicate that you want to really expand yourself, and you always probably have since you're a kid. But there may have been this like more, and you're very, very eccentric. You're an Aquarius. So you're very different. You're rebellious. You don't want to go by the rules. You want to learn. You don't want to just like accept things just to accept them. And you may have had a parent figure, like, because your sun and your moon, which represent mom and dad, are very, very different. So that would indicate that I'm not gonna say it was a divorce, but like that the overall energy or lesson or whatever you want to say that you took from mom and dad were very, very different. And this opposition of Mercury, your mind and how you talk, opposite Saturn makes me think that at a young age you kind of received this internal unconscious message that the way you thought or the way that you or your level of intelligence wasn't enough, and it probably made you shy, because there's already some self-esteem issues that I see that can definitely play themselves out. Venus in, like I said, only or I haven't said this yet, but only people who are advanced souls from the reincarnation standpoint choose charts that are difficult. Not to say your chart is like so fucking difficult. Trust me, I've seen way more difficult, but there are some difficult aspects to it. I'd say it's like medium difficulty. But I haven't completed everything yet, so maybe I'll know. But there's lots of really strong points too. Yeah, it's not that bad, but it's not easy, that's for sure. So so that's one thing. But then there's also an opposition with Mars and Neptune, which is very interesting. But before I go into that, the fact that Saturn is opposing Venus and Mercury means that there's this double energy where whether it's your father or whoever it was, like the patriarchy, whatever that represented in your youth, you had this energy that opposed you and really made you have difficulty in being vulnerable and expressing your true self. The throat chakra could have been blocked. And when you got to your Saturn return, I'm very curious what happened around 30. Because a lot of the energy started to open up, and suddenly maybe you felt this weight on your shoulder just pushed off, and you have to really like work very hard before that. And not to say that the energy completely went away, but got easier. So yeah, Mercury opposite Saturn, when it typically has to do with issues related to the mind, to the message, your overall thought. It makes people very, very shy, but in the end it's a very strong indicator of intelligence, because Saturn represents memory, Mercury is the mind. So someone who has a good mind, a very curious mind, a mind that's really trying to expand itself in the ninth house, and that memory once they realize their own potential. And sometimes when I see charts like this, I think that I imagine that the individual just being like such an amazing like child or kid, and just like being different, but like jealousy or like jealous people kind of push them down. And it's like their journey to like figure out, come back to the self. Because like this brings like tons of intelligence and wisdom, Mercury opposite Saturn, right? But there's like that frustration and sadness because of the inability to connect with others at a personal level, which comes from like like if the communication is shut down at a young age, especially at the 0 degree, right, which almost performs somewhat like kind of like a retrograde or like a planet in some respects. There's a lack of communication skills a lot of times. Sometimes even like a poor attention span. Although I don't imagine that with the Virgo moon, but yeah, and with the square moon square Neptune, you can sometimes like think the worst or believe that others are like having different opinions of you or saying different things of you than they really are. And also there can be this frustration with the inability to share your like knowledge in an understandable way, right? The things it's like people just not getting it. But yeah, there is lots of hope with this one because it is a late bloomer. Saturn makes everything, it tests you in the first part of life, and then the struggle gets a lot easier, and it can make one like a master in communication, right? Especially with the written word, right? Because they really they can tend to focus on that, especially as a Mars in Gemini. So yeah, writing is a very, very good outlet. And yeah, in general, negative thinking, leads like there can be this can also be a very big indicator of depression and sadness. Saturn, it represents that melancholy and the mind there, and especially with Venus there. So when growing up, there could have been like harsh words from a parent that really affected you, especially with the square, the Virgo moon square Neptune, which kind of makes you almost like a Pisces moon in a little bit of a sense. So yeah, curious how that played out. And it all comes from like rewiring the brain with positive affirmations, with all this healing, with all this North Node, right? Like North Node Scorpio, like going deep within the shadow and healing. That's like your life purpose is really there. And there's more to the life purpose with the 5th house Pluto. But like the alternative can be depression, and loneliness, stuff like that. And it's kind of similar with the with the Venus, but the Venus that represents more of the love stuff. So Venus opposite Saturn, it's gonna once again make it difficult to find love until after self-love is learned and getting past the perfectionism. And people can have feelings of unworthiness and inadequacy, thinking like they're like shame, like something has to be wrong with me. Like a lot of times, yeah, there's criticism, even ostracism from parents, even other adults that were important figures. And sometimes people like who have this like the parents lack parenting skills, or some difficult karma between you and the parents. Although I don't see anything so far that would relate to that, but I'd have to see their charts. But it's all about like self-love, and I don't say this in every reading, but it's all about self-love. And sometimes people that will have this will like value money too much and try to make up with it with money. So that's like it's important not to like obsess with that. But like repeating what I said before, like early conditioning can have led you to believe that you were not that good and deserve to be sad and lonely. And there's always karmic reasons for this. But that's that's kind of just what it is. It's I don't have like a vision of your past lives and what led to that. So some people that they can think they're like a bad person, not worthy of love, and that's like the journey, right? The journey to once again, this is total late bloomer energy. Um, and there's what else? Like big time inferiority complex a lot of times. And with like the projection that can come up, and it's just like so important to like remove self-pity and guilt that's not your own, and just like laugh and find these like creative outlets, because you have Pluto in the fifth house, which is all about having this like massive creative purpose for your life. Like you're really meant to like dive into yourself in a new creative way that helps you understand yourself on a deeper level. And yeah, so it's like you have to forgive yourself um for whatever you imagine you did that had to have been so bad, right? Because like some people who have this, like it's almost like their energy like has this message to it, like that says like with their face or just with their overall like very apathetic. It's like, I'm worthless, go away. And it's like getting away from the past, just like letting that go, right? It's so important. And loving and valuing yourself, like once again the mantras and the affirmations and the mirror stuff like that is it's all about the rewiring, reprogramming of the brain, which is the North Node in Scorpio. And yeah, just like convincing yourself that you deserve love, and also money, because this is money too. Money, well, everything financial would have gotten a lot easier after 32, because Venus rules spending and that stuff too, and all the good things in life, also creativity. So yeah, like you can really attract love and money once you actually believe that you deserve it. So prayer, journaling, like just really getting vulnerable is really important. Like, so a chart like yours is like a must for healing and therapy. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in the sense of what I'm seeing. And yeah, things get easier over time. Maybe where you're at now, you've done all that work. So with and with age comes a great deal of contentment, satisfaction, and you look back on everything and you just feel so grateful, and you're like, wow, I overcame so fucking much. I am a champion. So okay. So then I was going to talk about okay, Venus. Okay, so yeah, so Venus also, so we got the T square going on with Jupiter, which shoots out at 21 Libra in the fifth house. So yeah, Venus square Jupiter, that's not a bad aspect. That's a positive, the best square in astrology. And yeah, it's good for popularity. And I mean, I guess in love, like it can give like a little bit of an optimistic luck to to kind of the self-love. But I would see that one actually making what I just talked about a lot better. It's still difficult, but the square of Jupiter can make one like enjoy life. And it is good for having fun, which it's really in creativity. So it is really neat in this chart. I didn't see this one, so this is like what it's the best square in astrology. Usually squares are difficult, which gives an optimistic outlook. So it's gonna kind of push away a lot of what I said before, and definitely add some positivity. And it's a 6 degree, or wait, let's see. Wait, hold on. How many degrees is it? 1 second. 5 degrees. And then the opposition. Yeah, so the opposition is like literally less than it's literally like a little bit more than a degree. So it's like nearly an exact fucking opposition. It's like 181 degrees. The square is like 5 degrees. So the opposition is going to be more powerful. and it's just more of a powerful energy, but still it's gonna give a little positive hint to that. Okay, so then we have also Mars. So in Gemini, you know, it's getting a nice push from Jupiter too. Very like that's like very good for popularity. Being someone already Aquarius is very good for that too. So you see there's these real two parts that are emerging, that have emerged in your chart. And you know, the difficult Mars opposite Neptune, then so that's another really difficult one we got to talk about. So Mars, you know, in Gemini people, they, like I said, they need intellectual, verbal, they're very curious people, social butterfly energy. They need to have that intellectual connection with their lovers, or they're just gonna not be able to handle it. And they also really need their lovers to be their like actual best friends. So when it's square Neptune, though, so one, Mars and Neptune together, you have to watch out for escapism, self-pitying, self-victimization, substances too, like actual poisoning. And it just like, because basically like Mars, it's really important for you to have a creative channel, which your Pluto sun is going to talk about, right? When you have a creative channel, it makes everything easier in your entire chart, especially when you have like, you know, a group of people that you can learn with and expand with, of friends, right? That's really very important. But yeah, like Mars square Neptune, you know, it creates people who are fighting for a worthy cause. Once again, it's not based on traditional public standards, so it's very humanitarian. Tons of this energy in your chart. It's best like it's another one of these service like oriented aspects, but like discouragement is something you have to fight, because there can be like lots of like really being hard on yourself, especially after disappointments. You also have to really watch out, especially with the Gemini energy, to watch out about talking about other people behind their back, because this aspect can like create suspicion for like other people might think that you're doing that, so you have to stay away from like gossip, lies, all that stuff. And yeah, it's really like faith based, like and about learning self-confidence, not being the victim, like when you have these like scary, vulnerable situations, like it's like pushing you to believe that everything will be okay in the end, right? It's so once again like a spiritual placement, and it can be really good when you connect Mars and Neptune. You know, in Mars and Gemini and Neptune, it's like it can create someone who's really like how do you say it, a great like able to put their imagination into their writing potentially. But when it's the house axis it's in, the first and seventh, is speaking to this one part of you that wants to be very like independent with like in relationships, or just like in life in general, be very independent, curious, go from this to this to this, from this thing to this thing to this thing, and not be held back by a relationship. But then the seventh house Neptune, it gives one, like I said before, at its highest energy, like a desire for very romantic relationships. So there can be like a feeling of like kind of being held back by someone you're in a relationship with. But also like on a psychological level, it can have to do with having difficulty trusting your ability to like go after things in a direct manner. And it can also create lots of fog and uncertainty about what it is you want. So it can be very vague, which can make someone like kind of go in different directions a lot. And it can, yeah, so it can be another one for for like seeing yourself and self-confidence and stuff. That can be difficult. And fear, yeah, definitely fearing rejection and criticism too. but it just creates an extremely powerful imagination. But the thing is like learning to trust your instincts, right? Because it's like you can like easily imagine how things can go wrong, but you can also imagine like really, really good things and have like I said, like this very tapped in to that part of yourself, right? Besides that, I would say there's like an attraction to like the spiritual, esoteric mysteries of life. And there can also be with a like from the sexual perspective, like an addiction, even though it is in Gemini, to sensuality, and just different like a stronger sexual appetite that can sometimes feel like a bottomless pit. Although I don't really see that many other. I would need to look more in your chart to see that. And yeah, you just have to really watch out for addiction, whatever it is, sex, drugs, you know, like that whole hungry ghost energy can come through. And the best way to deal with it is getting in touch with your heart and really discovering the true desires, and realizing that sensations are only sensations, you know, and that they're in the end they're not satisfying or fulfilling. It's all about you know, the connection to the divine, the connection to your inner self. So yeah, difficulty in trusting your ability to go after stuff. So I'm curious how that plays out. And one other thing, 1 second. Yeah, also like yeah, so it's like how can you like figure out the positive way where you can chase your dreams, excuse me, the positive manner of chasing your dreams. Because like I said before, it makes it difficult to feel like you can really go after things in a direct manner and also pinpointing what you want. So yeah, self-confidence, and getting over the perfectionism. But like I want to talk, you know, it is such a great one for imagination, right? So yeah, you can imagine kind of how that plays out, or how I'm curious to hear how that's played out. Yeah, one other thing really quickly, I'm looking for something. Yeah, watch out for like some people with this can be a little bit like what's the word in English? Sneaky. And like do like little things like schemers to get things they want. So you have to watch out for that. Yeah. And also one thing with Neptune in the 7th house is to watch out for giving out your spiritual power to a partner. So you have to really watch out for like the energy vampires in that area of life. And yeah, because like when you do that, you can really feel lots of like resentments towards that person, and those just build over time, and those can literally create diseases. So curious about that. All right, so moving on. You know, you also have Venus square. I can't even see this one, square Chiron. So that's just once again, that's like astrology has this beautiful way of saying the same thing in many different ways. And the square with Chiron, which is Venus square Chiron, is just basically saying that there is you meet your pain, that you have one, that there's lots of like spiritual pain and lots of pain that you know that you have, especially Chiron in Aries is related to a pain in like in expressing yourself and feeling like I can do it, like third chakra, like I can do it, I can succeed, I can start and I can go. But you do have Jupiter there, which is going to make it a lot easier. So it's about healing with that, but that also that is square with Venus is like, you know, once again like another bruise to self-esteem, but then to relationships. That's a difficult aspect for relationships. Chiron square Venus, and it can make it so you meet a lot of your spiritual pain within very kind of karmic fated relationships, being that it's in Venus in Saturn, or in Capricorn. So Jupiter in I talked about 11th house in Aries, beautiful placement for popularity, for friends. Like I know people with this who they move from country to country, place to place, and they just always get lucky. They always have a widening circle of friends. So also goals and visions play an important life in the search for meaning. So it's very, very good. So when you're like, there is this Aries, like, go for it energy when it comes to searching for meaning, which is like a huge part of your chart, right? It might not play out in other parts of your life, but there's definitely some fire energy there, right? This is a fire. It's like this, like when I say you have fire, this is fire. This is like a middle planet, right? All the other ones I mentioned were the inner planets. This is like a middle planet, and the other ones are outer planets. Middle's kind of doesn't really have it kind of has a psychological process within us. And then the outer planets, they do, but it's complicated. So Jupiter in Aries, super freedom loving. You've seen that already all over your chart. Also, like in the 11th house, I forgot to say that you have an ability to like really inspire large groups of people, and you really do well in groups, and you find yourself within groups, and you can have you can kind of almost like like find your power within groups that are like mine. That's why I told you to message me about that thing. And then Jupiter in Aries, just someone who loves freedom, who loves kind of taking life by the horns, and be like this very spontaneous, this person who seeks truth and just goes after, like you probably like saw the opportunity with me, getting a reading with me, and you just had that spontaneous, I'm going after this, like that Aries is like, boom, let's go. So when it comes to like finding truth, you are very spontaneous in that sense. And Jupiter in Aries, even though you do like fire, it can definitely help you a lot, and give some real leadership power. It's just about getting past these difficult parts. So yeah, I don't sell myself like in the sense of like do counseling with me or not. I don't know if you're looking to do that, but like this is exactly the kind of chart that would be like perfect for astrological counseling. So just a thought, and I do, like if you're ever interested, it is very affordable, and I love doing it. But I'm not going to say anything more about that. You will know. So that's kind of the Jupiter 11th house. Chiron 11th house in Aries. Like I said before, there can also be this like real healing that happens in groups, but also on the flip side, pain that was probably experienced within groups, whether it's friend groups or whatever it may be. And you may, once again, another reason I'm inviting you to this group, may become friends with lots of other like healers and teachers and wounded people who are wounded healers. This is Chiron. And so it's kind of meant to be. And the Chiron Aries, I talked about it. It's just like your feeling of your sense of being may have been violated in some way, and there's this fear of asserting yourself, right? Some people overcompensate by always trying to be first at everything, and you got to watch out for head wounds because Aries rules the head. But it can create like someone who's like a pioneer in some way of healing, something they find, some way of some form of healing. So okay, let's see what else have we. Okay, so then so this just fits in perfectly with everything I said. Black Moon Lilith in Pisces. So Black Moon Lilith, it's not a part of your chart. It's kind of just like your lowest energy. Like if you let yourself go in a bad way, like what comes out, that is just all about self-victimization and escapism. So I'm curious to know how those play out in your life. Feeling bad for yourself. Also just like dreaming, like kind of like dreaming but not doing. And also it can be like imagining things that aren't there, that don't exist. So yeah, very interesting. In the 10th house, you can be your own worst enemy in relationship to your career. And sometimes it can make someone that's ambitious to an extent that's too much. Yeah, some pain around, some darkness that can come out, like in the career area. But like, yeah, another thing with Black Lilith and Pisces, why it's so interesting with accordance to everything I said, is that it can make it so you don't fully accept the emotional side of your nature, where you can shy away from like opportunities for deeper connections with other people, and maybe believing that they're too unstable, and like kind of the whole things of like mercurializing the emotions. So yeah, that's another aspect of it. So okay, the fact that your midheaven's in the 9th house in the whole signs is just basically saying that like your career and your dharma, like what you're here to really do on like a big life level, can really be linked to not just humanity, because it's in Aquarius, your midheaven, so like to humanitarianism and making the world a better place, being very original and ingenious in your chosen profession, and it's very linked to your sun and to your life path overall. But also in the 9th house, and also the fact that you could like definitely make a humanitarian contribution in your career, and you might change careers a lot, and that friends, right, can really play a role in your career. And it's very faded because it's ruled by Uranus, and which is conjunct North Node. But also that, yeah, 9th house, that philosophy, other cultures, all that other stuff I was talking about earlier, can play a role in your like finding like truth, seeking truth can play a real role in your dharma and what you're really here to do, which your sun is right there at the top of the chart. Okay, so then I want to say that you have Ceres rising. So basically, like, it makes one really like, even though you're Gemini rising, just a very kind of, I always think of Ceres as very like loving kindness energy, like very Cancer, like warm. So really loving to care for other people, and you kind of carry that on you wear that, right? And yeah, coming off as very comforting. So dynamic and comforting. It's a nice touch. And the fact, that's in Gemini, really like that you like to share your feelings and thoughts with the people closest to you, and you like to listen to them and have them listen to you. Like really, that sharing of information with loved ones is kind of one way that you show you care, and it's a big part of your outer personality. And you probably don't like it when others like refuse to talk. You want to have that connection, that mercurial connection. The fact they have Gemini and Virgo as personal planets. Okay, so just adding the last outer planets in. Saturn, the 2nd house. I know this one well. I don't have it, but I know I've really experienced it a lot. It creates this feeling of emotional and financial poverty. So a lot of people that have this, not all of them, they can come from poor families or like not rich families, and there can, yeah, they can like a great example, and I always give this example, is I have this uncle, my one of the sides of my family is not rich in any way, but they made all my uncles, they made something of themselves. But in one of them, he owns like 15 houses that he like bought that were like shit, and he like completely like reconfigured them, remade them, and he definitely has a bunch of money. He's probably like in his 50s, like mid 50s, and he still like just will not spend money on anything. I swear, he has to be like a millionaire close, and he just won't spend. He like has like pants that have been there like for 10 years, the holes in them, and just still going to the supermarket and buying like the cheapest things. It's just like a sickness. I see this in millionaires as well, who are like I'm talking like hundred millions of dollars who won't even buy a new car. But like one person I know had a car from, like 30 years ago. Everything's falling apart. Extremely wealthy and won't even buy a new car because it creates this feeling of like emotional and financial poverty. So even because there's such a fear around money. So it's all about developing an ability to build up your personal resources through hard work. And basically getting past that. And in Cancer, it's like it can make one quite inhibited and shy emotionally. Also, Cancer ruling the own family, the family, it can make one feel quite isolated and different within their own family, which I totally see. But they can be very kind of serious in their own family. Pluto in the 5th house, I talked about this before, obviously, and then, oh yeah, Juno, and I forgot to mention Juno. Juno is like it's marriage. It's what we look for in a marriage mate, and it's conjunct your moon. So you're looking for someone who is going to be really, really like Virgo-y in the sense that I described your moon, very, very dependable. Who also is close to home and a homebody. Like that gives you a very firm foundation, value family relationships, stuff like that, and then Juno and Virgo, yeah, once again, it's like it's looking for the perfect partner, and you may need to like really make some adjustments in order to accept something less than perfection, because that doesn't exist, right? But really, in the end, the love language of Virgo is like usually actions as opposed to like I love you, I love you, I love you. It can be really about like what you're willing to do for the person and stuff like that, right? Which goes just as far. That's my love language. So yeah, needing a partner who can attend to all the details, like for example, like chores and being on the same page with like cleanliness and all the little things that Virgo moons care about, right? Routine, bedtime, whatever it is, lifestyle, overall like day by day life flow being similar, and just like having a really close a feeling of like you really close emotional safety with them. So yeah, Pluto in the 5th. Here we have, like I said before, I already talked about this. Someone who is having a massive creative purpose in this life, where they have a powerful need to express themselves creatively. They feel like this lifetime is a very important one, where they have to really like kind of get past. You have to really get past everything that I've talked about in your chart, and just like take a massive creative risk on yourself and have like a creative outlet. Let me get my Pluto book, and I'm still going to talk while I get it. It's just this little book I access every reading, and it wouldn't be a reading with me if I didn't access it. And while I do that, I'm going to flash my screen. So yeah, that's kind of what it is with Pluto 5th house. It's someone who is here to really get deep within themselves. And I always think of authentic self-expression as the idea of like, I'm not creating just for the views or for the applause or for this, for that. It's really like there's like a sense of destiny linked to the creative purpose, right? And it's the destiny is to express yourself and find yourself through that expression. So it's like writing the poem. Show myself again. It's like writing the poem that you maybe show one person, which would be great for you, or maybe you don't show anyone, but it helps you get closer to understanding yourself. My Pluto handwritten book, by the way. Also, there's like a need to advance some key part of your creative nature. And a lot of times this has to do with your South Node in Taurus in the 12th house. Lifetimes where this was sidelined. Maybe like you were more like in the role of like the mother or the sister or the husband or whatever, and you were like there wasn't a chance for you to really put this into work. So the polarity point, which is like the healing, so there's like a deep drive to follow creative urges and desires. So that's very, very important. Is about finding groups that can really help that, and that can help move that forward. And basically, one sec, put that away. Like, yeah, you will go like when you go through your shadow, which is like what the North Node is, right? In Scorpio, like when you're really going to the dark night of the soul, that you'll get many different downloads. And one of the because that's Uranus, right? But the best way to be is to be taking creative risks. And being of service, of course, is huge in your chart. So okay, vertex in the sixth house with your North Node. Basically, what that's saying, vertex is like a second ascendant. I look at it that way, and it just talks about how you'll have very kind of like your relationships might have this like this unit of like balance, because eighth house, I haven't really talked about much with eighth house Venus. Like you'll have very intense and transformative romantic relationships. Also, you can really benefit from like things like inheritances and other people's resources, but like you'll have very intense relationships where you go through death, rebirth, transformation through the relationships. And that's shown again, but the vertex is kind of like the second ascendant, like how you appear in relationships, and that would indicate that you come off as like someone who's very very intense and who wears that on their sleeves within the within the relationship. Like for example, I never really thought about this, but like I have no Capricorn besides like outer planets in my chart, but in my vertex is in Capricorn, and I realized like in my relationship I am very Capricornian. I was like, damn, that's kind of interesting, right? So you might be like feel quite scorpionic when you're in relationships. And it's linked to your North Node, right? So it's like the North Node in Scorpio, it's like all about, and I talked about in the sixth house how it's about a quest to learn responsibility, letting go of the desire to escape into the fantasy world, and really developing a productive new life. But in Scorpio, it's about change, allowing change to come. And the tendency, like I said before, to want peace and quiet at all costs. It's all about not allowing the weakening of your spiritual strength, which comes from resisting change and not taking risks. And it's about being open to new possibilities. Like the whole thing of like, sometimes you gotta like let go of certain things, certain people, certain environments, certain situations, certain trends to make room for the new. That's like a perfect metaphor, right? And you may find that your life is really transformed at some stage, doing exactly what I said. Once you're able to kind of make room for the new through letting go of the old. So yeah, and let's see here. So your sun moon midpoint is like around your descendant. So that's once again saying like the fusing of your solar and lunar energies is within your relationships. So that's once again another indicator of that being a very, very important part of life. Besides that, let's see if I see any stars. Let's open this up. So I shall see your midheaven is 9. Okay, so okay. So not really anything there. Nope. 456. Let's see what it says. Okay. Yeah, not really getting much info on that one. And then 27 and 9. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. None there. 26 or 0. 26. And then 10. 10, 10, 10, 10. Let's see. Okay, there's something. It's your moon conjunct fixed star Acrux, which I'm just learning about. And didn't when I posted about these 3 stars that were like all about, I said astrology, but really it's like about like finding truth. I need to go back a little bit. Did you have, I think it was 10, wasn't it? Let's see if I can find that. Now I have to I have so much information. Okay, here it is. Yeah, Zosma. So that's not, Zosma is conjunct your moon. So that's going to be someone who's really, really looking for truth. So very interesting. I'm happy I thought I saw that one because it wasn't showing in my program because it's a very unknown one. And here it is here. Yeah, Zosma conjunct moon. So very close conjunction, and basically, yeah, Zosma, from what I know of it, is one of the astrologer stars. And it's not just astrologer, it's just like someone who's really, really looking for truth, which we keep seeing in your chart. So let's see what they say about fixed stars Zosma here. I can't wait for my book to arrive. I have 2 books coming. By the way, 1 second. Where the fuck is my book? Okay. Alert mind. The ability of prophecy. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm seeing. It is in sidereal Leo, so very strength in the horoscope. Okay, and I'm looking for this. I'm looking for this. This is what I do at the end of these readings. I look for fixed stars to give more of a flavor. So okay. There we go. It only shows that we have. So, okay. So now let's see if it says anything about the moon. Okay, so here's what it says. It says moon conjunct Zosma, which you have like so close, can cause depression, which we talked about before in another present chart, but also good instincts and visions, drug addiction or sensitivity, motion sickness or anxiety felt in the stomach. So there you go. So happy I caught that. Aside from that, 25, 25, Cancer. You have Saturn conjunct Procyon, which is another one. I'm just learning about all these now. It is Mercury, Mars. So I imagine that's quite difficult. Okay, it says good judgment. So Saturn conjunct Procyon, good judgment, high position of trust, often in connection with land, may be adopted by aged couple from whom a good inheritance is obtained. If that's true, that's crazy. Benefits from elderly friends, good health, domestic harmony, marriage to one of higher status. So that's actually very good. And then 18. So then also, yeah, like just like watch out for lying, because there's certain stars that are in certain positions. Bellatrix conjunct Mars, it makes me think of like, but it is at 20 and your Mars is at 18. But Bellatrix, from what I learned recently, and you have Rigel 1650. Let's see, it's at 1842. So it's like just kind of in the middle of Bellatrix and Rigel. So Rigel is very good for they're both kind of like barely 1650, so it'd be like 18, like 19. So it's in orb. Rigel, it brings out a more ruthless type of individual. These people can sell anything, even those things they do not own. So it's very good for sales. This point is a gift, but with Mars on this degree, they take advantage of others. You see, this is what I'm saying. Bellatrix is also about lying, and thus use it unwisely. The nervous system is stimulated, causing a very rapid and even flowing energy throughout the nervous system and mental thought patterns. These are persons who can sell anything to anyone. They usually speak rapidly and very bright. If people enjoy listening to them, they are thus able to be persuasive in any area they wish to apply their communication skills. Interesting. And then with Bellatrix, at 2057, 220, which would go down to 1830, which is just barely an orb. So this is not going to be very, I might not even read this one. It says strength, energy, success as soldier, surgeon or metal worker, liable to accidents, brings out anger in individuals, also brings out hostility as well as aggressiveness. They like to lead others into fights. There's much creative energy here, but it's usually brought out in a violent manner. They enjoy using knives and stabbing others. It's not generally used in a more acceptable way, such as a butcher, blah, blah, blah. It's a negatively directed energy, but this is like barely like the other one was more in orb. They're disruptive and seldom stay in a conservative lifestyle. It is recommended these persons join a battle group fighting for a cause somewhere in the world. Damn. All right, well that's pretty much I think. And then the last one we'll look for is 21 Aries. See if there's anything there, and that is the last one I'll talk about. Beta Kaitos, which is your Jupiter, is there. And it doesn't give any information. And then I talked about that. Not there. 26. Yeah, 2615. So it's only 1 degree orb, so it's 2651. So yeah, you have Terrelium conjunct Venus. Let's see if there's anything on there. Nope, it doesn't give much information. So yeah, we're not gonna really talk. And it's a very, very small, not important fixed star, so we're not gonna talk about that one. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I went. All right, let's maybe see if there's anything with the Pluto, and that'll be the last one. We already saw there's nothing in this. 11. Is it Libra? Three 48, 456. Well, I guess your ascendant does have that 1124 Libra. So I guess your ascendant does have. I was saying it didn't, but let's just see what it says if it gives any information. I read this one. What am I talking about? Blindness. This potentially gives injuries to the face. Blindness, bad eyes. I don't know if that is true. If it is, let me know. And finally, and I'm not going to write any of these 6 stars. So you're going to have to write me all these, even the names, if you want to know more about them. That literally learning about them as you speak. A lot of them I've read before, but there's so many of them. Imagine just hundreds. Okay, so then finally your Plutos or anything about that, Karina. No. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed, and it was a pleasure. I love this. I honestly, like I say this sometimes, I feel like this was one of my best readings ever. I feel like I'm just becoming a better astrologer, and I don't know. I thought this was like a really, really good reading. So I hope you enjoyed, and we'll speak soon on the follow-up. All right.